Stranger Things is a show that is based around six kids in the 80s trying to fight interdimensional alien creatures named Demogorgons. Not really the normal type of show you'd usually watch, but hey, it's Netflix you're talking about. So, season 1 was a pretty normal season. Well, besides the interdimensional stuff. But other than that, it was a pretty okay season. It set the show to be slow and rough at times, to where you had to wait for something exciting. It's probably what made it one of my favorite seasons, because it knew what it was trying to be, unlike the other seasons. The first season was, in my opinion, kind of hard to get into, but once you did, you were in there for good. And I feel like it was good at drawing someone in because there was the mystery, where did Will go? And the fact that that was the focus of the season, and they didn't really stray from it, was good. Another thing I felt like the first season was good at is building character and building relationships between people. What I mean is that you essentially learn that Steve is, well, quite frankly, he's a jerk. And Nancy starts to realize that and starts to stray away from hanging around him. And then Nancy and Jonathan meet and they start to bond, start to form a relationship, and start to build trust. That's usually how it works. The same goes for the gang in 11. They start to bond and they start to build trust with each other. But they kind of trash the whole Steve being a bad guy and building the Nancy Jonathan relationship in season 2 and season 3. Don't get me wrong, season 2 is not a bad season, but it's definitely not as good as the first one. They add a new character, which isn't that bad, but there's not really a point since they just got Will back and the people that watched the show didn't have much of a clue what he was like with people. I mean, yeah, they showed clips of him hanging out with his friends before he got trapped in the Upside Down, but that isn't the same, you know? One thing I mentioned talking about season 1 is how they made Steve a good guy all of a sudden. You see, I like good guy Steve. He's pretty cool. Nothing wrong with that. You can't really go in one season saying how someone sucks so much, and then in the very next season say how they're actually a good person. That may be how it is in real life. People aren't one-sided. But this is a show about monsters living in an opposite dimension, so I don't really think it needs to be that realistic. It is quite nice seeing how they did pull off Steve being a good guy, but that doesn't mean it didn't come at a cost. I mean, in order for them to convince people that watch the show that Steve was a good guy, they had to make people spend more time watching Steve do good things with good people. Because of that, it takes away everything that happened with Nancy, and Jonathan just ignores it. They act like they've been like that from the start, and they still act like that in season 3. I feel like ever since they got Will back, it kind of went downhill, like it didn't know what to do next. Don't get me wrong, I like the idea of the Mind Flayer. I mean, he's a scary dude, he's a scary monster. It's cool. But I don't like the idea we have to stretch it out for 2 seasons, and in the second season he's in there, you have to go through a completely different conflict and just ignore him for the most part. And don't even get me started how they did my man Bob like that. I don't even know how much drugs the Duffer Brothers were on when they came up with the concept of season 3. Heck, I don't even know how much drugs they were on when they came up with Stranger Things. But still, season 3 is whack. So it's summertime, and everyone's having a blast, except then, boom! The Upside Down is back.
But I'm not done yet!
Turns out, Dustin finds out that the Russians are doing some weird stuff, and they gotta stop them. First of all, what? And second of all, what? Okay, so now half the gang is on a wild Russian goose chase, and the other half is dealing with some other stuff. Like usual, they kill off some cool characters with a lot of potential. Half the gang kills the Mind Flayer. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, the Mind Flayer's back. And the other half blows up a Russian base. In order to blow up the base, Hopper has to sacrifice himself by detonating it, and gets blown up in the process, or something like that. And everyone's super sad in the end. So it reveals that in the trailer, Hopper, the dude that got yeah, it turns out he's alive somehow, which makes literally no sense. I have no clue what Stranger Things has come to, and honestly, I'm too disappointed to find out what it'll be in the future.